Call of Duty League is presented by T-Mobile, now America's largest and fastest 5G network. Set your sights on the competition with T-Mobile, the leader in 5G. USAA Renters Insurance. Cover your gear with the official insurance sponsor of the Call of Duty League.
Hi everybody and welcome back. It is day 3 of the Chicago home series. It is going to be a phenomenal way to start off the day. We were just talking about it, but it's cool. Minnesota Røkkr facing off against the Paris Legion, a big game considering that both of these teams are 0-1 coming into this particular match as we join you from a lovely virtual set. Study, I can't actually see you. I'm looking at my blinds, but I'm sure that you are looking phenomenal right now.
Oh, I'm feeling great. You're looking even better in that baby blue shirt. It's my favorite color, so you're looking good, duo. But I'm excited for this match. You know, we got Minnesota on one side who just coming off of a roster change are trying to improve in their respawn game modes because that's something that they've just been struggling with ever since that beginning of stage 3. And then on the opposite side, you got Paris Legion making that change for Zaptius, and they played a tough matchup yesterday versus Atlanta, but it was great to watch them play because every single match was close, and I'm excited to see what they can show today.
Yeah, I am too, man. Like, this is a huge game when we talk about the standings. Again, going down 0-2 would not be great for either of these teams considering how difficult of a group this one is going to be. But as we talked about it, this team literally is off of a loss. Just yesterday, they played the final match of the day, and it was a 3-0 sweep versus OpTic. Again, MajorManiak's in the team, their second series together. Let's go ahead and meet the squad, your Minnesota Røkkr.
Røkkr certainly come to play.
They can't stop it. They can't stop the kid. They can't stop it.
Oh, Priestahh.
It's Standy! Cuts them all down. What was that? Bang!
MajorManiak, 200 IQ, 10 out of 10 play.
They can't stop it. They can't stop it.
Oh my word! Attach is going to save the day. Røkkr, our kings of the north.
And there is your Minnesota Røkkr. Again, a team making some changes coming into stage 4. Accuracy out, MajorManiak in. A lot of talk on the timeline, Stud, about this particular move. Was it the right one? And what I mean, I guess kind of given their first series, it wasn't the greatest of debuts. But what did you take from that match, and what do you hope that they change coming into their game today versus Paris?
Well, it was a really difficult matchup yesterday. First of all, in the first hardpoint versus OpTic, they started off real slow, and then they started to mount a comeback. And it was all in a lot of play for MajorManiak. He was popping 2 pieces, 3 pieces across the map, and he's starting with setting up his teammates perfectly, but the consistent struggles when you talk about this team is just that hardpoint, man. They're currently sitting at the worst team that we have in that game mode, and it's just not been good for these guys. Obviously, when you swap out Accuracy, who wasn't really doing good throughout stage 3 with a 0.8, you bring in MajorManiak, you expect that slaying department to be up and about, but Priestahh yesterday just doesn't answer the call. He had a 0.6 on the series yesterday, and he needs to play better today.
Yeah, he definitely does. Not standard numbers from a player like P-Dog, but hey, speaking of P's, we got to talk about the next team on the other side. I know, a pretty interesting transition, but hey, like I said, we love this team. We know the players, but they do also have a new addition. It's MajorManiak for Minnesota, and it's Zaptius for our next squad. Let's go ahead and meet the crew, the Paris Legion.
Wonderful start here from Paris Legion. Paris Legion just about pushed that player off the hard point.
Just can they clutch up and go big?
Classic just being aggressive.
Yeah, so I'll probably just go into Paris then.
Sure, dude.
Fire's gonna get on the bomb, and he will. He finds the kill.
Unbelievable stuff.
Was from the back end, able to pick up 3 along the way.
Paris Legions.
What a round!
And there's your Paris Legion. Again, so as we talked about both teams for Paris and Minnesota off of a loss, but I think it's fair to say you and I had the cast for their series versus Atlanta just a few days ago, and despite what is on paper a 3-1 loss, I think it's fair to say that both of us were very optimistic about the future of this lineup.
Oh, definitely, man. Watching them in that series versus Atlanta, obviously the first map, if they don't start off slow, they have the potential to win it there. Then they go into the fresh start of standoff S&D, and they dominate that. They were the first team to win it in a 6-1 fashion and really set the tone for all these other teams. And then obviously the control. You're looking back at that first round where they had the live advantage, they had a set of streaks, and it just didn't work out for them, and eventually they ended up losing it there. And then just that hard point, just that consistency. They need to bring it back and just start off early into these games. But let's just hop right into our game. Few keys to victory for the Paris Legion. Catch fire early. Can't afford afford to have a slow start versus the Røkkr. We saw how that happened versus Atlanta. Having slow starts, to be having to fight back into it is really difficult, but Paris Legion, they have the capability. If they start off early, they'll be in a better position. And then take what you did right on that standoff S&D and implement that into your strats moving forward. And this is a struggle for Paris Legion. Their S&D hasn't been great all year, but obviously watching them on standoff, their teamwork is a lot better, so they need to keep that up. And then Temp, he needs to shine again. 1.13 in that series versus Atlanta FaZe. He and aBeZy can definitely cause problems today versus the Røkkr. When you talk about the Røkkr, their struggles in the respawns, you got to look heavily at their assault rifle players. They haven't really been playing consistently, but the way that Temp played yesterday, if he can keep up that performance and what we expect from aBeZy, it can be a great matchup in that AR battle.
Definitely could, man. Like I said, those ARs together, if they are firing, it could be a problem to deal with. Now, our game field keys to victory here for the Minnesota Røkkr, again, need to be better in hardpoint. We cannot stress it enough. We've talked about their records, 3-9 from stage 3 to today. And then also, solid AR presence, it needs to be felt. They have not had, or rather been consistent for the most part of this season. They've not been able to rely on their ARs day in and day out. And then also, with MajorManiak now in the mix, the S&D strats, they need to improve, right? The execution, the play calling, things have to be better. And but as we talked about it with this Minnesota team, throughout stage 3, the mode that they could rely on was control. They could not rely on the hard points. Yeah. They could not rely on the search and destroys. And when control is really one map, one kind of mode that we're going to have in comparison to the 4 others of a best of 5, not normally going to treat you too well. And that's probably indicated by the record that they had throughout stage 3. But here we go into our maps and modes, and the streak has ended. No standoff, search and destroy, but it's okay. We actually do notice Minnesota, after a slow, I will just say it that way, slow series on regards to that search and destroy, not playing it here. They do veto that, also considering how great the Paris looked. But we got Garrison, Raid S&D, Raid Control, and then also round out the series, we got Moscow Hardpoint and Express Search and Destroy. So let's focus in on this first Hardpoint. Thoughts on this one for both of our teams? I know what, historically, a pretty good record for Paris, no?
Yeah, I really like this map for Paris, and this is the map that they played versus Atlanta FaZe, and they only lost by at least 20 points. So Paris are really confident on this map. You have their entire year record at 7-3, and on the opposite side, you have Minnesota, who are currently sitting at 2-6. So this is going to be different for these guys. Paris obviously only losing to Atlanta FaZe by a couple points. You can't really be mad at that. You want to be able to execute there, and hopefully they're able to answer the call.
Yeah, man. Excited to see this series. I know we cannot stress it enough. Again, to go down 0-2 in your pool. I don't want to say it's like a guaranteed, like you're not getting top 3, but it's fair to say, man, like I don't know how many teams have started off 0-2 and still have somehow made it, but I imagine the list has got to be somewhat short. You lose here, you got to be pretty much perfect. A lot of pressure as we fly in for some good old Garrison to start. As you said, Stud, saw this one not too long ago with the Paris Legion, as the Fire Barrel getting out early. Zaptius, quick one to fall, as it is Minnesota walking away with the early time.
Yeah, so Minnesota, they win the opening break, and they're able to start off with the initial time. You see what Paris Legion are doing. They're not trying to get chained off that P1 to P2. They're not trying to let this game get out of hand early, so they're making those adjustments off the rip. That's all about just trying to not give up as much time on this P1 hardpoint. You're still keeping control of top green, but the spawns are starting to flip, and this is bad for Paris Legion. That's going to be 4 down with all players spawning on towards back tools. Time still going in favor of the Røkkr, and now that they have the spawns for P2, Paris Legion need to respond.
And this is a kind of a similar situation to what we saw Paris whenever they faced off against Atlanta, right? I think it was like a solid like P1, P2, P3 chain from Atlanta. Paris really kind of started to bring the game back. I think it was like in P4 to P5. It did administer a nice comeback, but against that, when you're putting yourselves in awkward positions like this, it is never going to be easy. But given the fact of the way the map now looks, it will be a hefty battle to start off our money hill. And so far it is Temp keeping up that same level of play that we saw him have in that last series. That what he had like a 1.13 despite the loss. And as we touched on at the start, if Temp can be firing, if he and aBeZy can be that AR combo, it can really lead the way for the team and what is going to be a very rough series.
It definitely can, man. But Paris Legion, they did a good job of just not giving up all that time to Minnesota. But you have to focus on the rotation. And this is bad right here from Paris Legion. They're going to be late once again. Minnesota already have 2 players, make it 3, spawning on towards that back P3 area. MajorManiak eventually is going to drop. So now it's all left up to Zaptius off this rotation. What can he try to get done? He's not going to find any. So he's going to drop, but Scraps and his teammate in Aqua, pushing through this left side junk area, trying to stay alive, but Priestahh's gonna spot him. The spawn's still coming in from the backside for Minnesota, and once again, Paris Legion are fighting from the backside.
Yeah, man, a forgettable start to this hard point as we are nearly 3 hills deep, and so far Legion have had no advantage in either of these. Those 28 seconds, they have desperately had to work for them, not putting themselves in any favorable spots. Aqua, 1-4 start, not common. What has been kind of the star of Legion alongside Scraps. Speaking of Matty Marshall, he's there to perform, finds 2, now 3 in a row, does drop inside his shop, but it very well could set up a few early plays coming in. One of the teammates, Standy, the ever clever Angle, is able to stay alive for a moment. He gets traded, 15 seconds left, but the trades, it doesn't matter. It is still favoring the Røkkr as they will be good to reach that century mark. And on the other side for Legion, do not grab a single second here over at P3, a rotation that looked good for them to start, but I hate to try and be, I guess you could say devil's advocate in this situation, Stud, but we did see Paris play well on P4 and P5, but it's kind of, like I said, the same story that they had versus Atlanta. It was a matter of not starting off well, putting themselves in the back foot and recovering. I mean, what, if they could play better, just hold spawns the way that they're supposed to, make their life a heck of a lot easier.
It definitely can, man. And just going back to that P1 hard point where you had someone in Aqua who was holding out towards that P2 the entire time, and then eventually when his teammates dropped on that point, he beats aggressive towards that top green area, eventually drops into spawns flip, and this is just hard for Paris Legion because now, even on the back spawns, Minnesota have control. They're able to take control of top green, and now Paris Legion once again are not getting any time. Minnesota have really stepped up the play. You look at the play from MajorManiak, look at the play from Priestahh. We said it before on the keys to victory that the ARs need to have a performance, and Priestahh, he's not missing shots right now. Minnesota came to play today.
They absolutely have. Nearly at a 100-point advantage already as Legion slow out of the gates. If you are a Røkkr fan, you've got to be feeling good. Another hard point up next, but current split spawns right now for Minnesota. We'll see how that coordination can work, as that's going to be a nice double for Standy. As we'll step aside and listen in for the communication. We go to our Astro listening with Minnesota.
Yo, you leave they're all in the back.
Alright, I'm going out.
Back
Actually, I can find me.
Three in the back. One of you can shift. One of you can shift.
Yeah, they're breaking.
They're working towards bricks. They're working towards bricks.
Okay, big door. Get kills right here.
Big door.
Brick on me.
I'm going towards L. Stay alive, green, Eli. I'm not in now.
Brick on me.
L. Drop that on time.
Almost Aqua brick. One out brick.
L heard Donnie. L window.
You
can get that.
I got time. I'm looking arch.
I'm shelling out.
I'm close bricks. Close bricks,
What the fuck?
I'm staying alive, brick.
L dead.
Nice. One hill, one brick. 2 brick on me.
Ivy in here. They're working right. They're working right mid. One shot. He's one shot. 2 in bricks. Tools then. I'm getting initial.
Aqua's
Okay, I'll back up. You should back up.
Okay, stay.
I'm holding green. I'm still holding green. I have green.
I have all mid. Alright. Left side mid. 2 mid. One stacks and one's under L.
Alright. I can shell bridge if you get time.
Under L. He's B-hop. One shot.
I need to B-hop.
Yeah, come on.
One mid dead.
Yo, I'm hitting vent.
Top green dead.
I'm hitting vent.
Nice.
Top green dead.
Tools. I'm looking my vent.
Tools in vent. Last 2. He's hopping up B-hop.
Stay alive.
You challenge me, done.
Nice. One more tools.
Dead tools.
I'm in your L. I have your L.
I'll get time.
One guy spawned
I got
loading.
pinned tools in back alley.
Look at my tools.
One's
They're gonna
tools
flip, guys.
in back alley.
Tools, any help?
They're playing for time. Back alley, he's spawn killing. He's on crate.
I'm looking over you, P-Dog.
2 are gonna hit time.
They can be a little bit
One's
on
on
me.
crate.
Yeah,
He's still in bricks.
Bricks dead.
Nice. I have green.
On time, scrap on
Help me
time.
hold him.
I need to hold.
Top green.
I mean, Stud, this is textbook. I mean, we've seen, a number of different dominant games so far throughout this season, but this has been textbook. I mean, just in regards to what Paris have given Minnesota to start this one off. I mean, they have taken every advantage and they have run with it 186 to 56. And of course, they have the next spawns already ready to go.
Yeah, and it's all about the little things, man. Like, even when we were in that listening right there, Minnesota, they were pinning them towards that back tank spawn, but they were just so focused on what they had to get done the next time, and that's all about setting up for that P1. They kept control of top green. They were able to get every single second off of that middle hard point, and now Paris Legion, they're just fighting from the back foot. This is perfect hard point right now for Minnesota. It's not even like they're outslaying them by a lot. It's just that they're making the kills come in the right times, winning those kills off the rotation, not dying off the rotation, and just making sure that they're trading properly. Right now, Minnesota, they look like a well-oiled machine in hardpoint. You have MajorManiak, who's currently sitting on a 6th spree, about to earn himself some streaks. That's another 3 down. And Minnesota, like I said, man, they are on point today.
They absolutely are. I mean, you look at the other side, Zaptius 8 and 20. I mean, other than that, nobody getting heavily outslayed. It's just, you know, -3 here, -4, -5, nothing dramatic. But obviously, when you are an SMG in Zaptius's position, it's never going to be easy given the way that the situations have worked. But speaking of 74 U's, Scraps, somewhat of a positive, but you looked up toward that scoreboard and you say, okay, cool, got 2 in a row, but the other team's only 9 points away from locking this one up. So, with that in mind, somewhat of a grim start to this series for Legion, as they are going to need a lot in order just to try to make this one look somewhat more competitive. Nice long-range shots in combination there from Attach and Standy. Dylan Price will in fact pay it as Zaptius did find a nice one. Aqua there as well, but this is probably, I think it's fair to say, Stud, the real first hill that we have seen Paris rotate to effectively and lock down the way that you'd expect them to. Just given the way that this game has gone up to this point. Granted, they do reach 100 and will surpass that mark. Minnesota, in map positioning that they are, you like the chances for them to lock this one up soon.
Yeah, and Paris Legion, like you said, man, that was their first good hold so far in this entire hardpoint. They were nice and early to the rotation, winning the rotation gunfights, and then just holding in the line of the players from Minnesota, trying to break through, winning a majority of those gunfights, and now they're going to be able to push through and now get set up for that P4. They're still flipping those spawns from Minnesota, and I don't want to be the first one to say it, but we saw yesterday Paris had the potential to come back into games. This game is far from over, but 2 players do drop. Zaptius is still going to be able to get on point with only 7 seconds remaining for Minnesota to be able to close this out. Paris, we say it all the time, they have to play perfect hard point, but with 2 players dropping, Minnesota are able to get on the hill, and it's in the closing moments now.
Yep, and that'll be the final second. Minnesota walk away with this one in a solid fashion, 250 to 129. Again, we talked about the Røkkr. On paper, worst hardpoint record in the CDL. Paris, a team that relies on those HPs. Not a favorable spot, of course, if you are a Legion fan, but I mean, what, man? Gotta get back to the conversation of this. I feel like we talk about it so often when we cast over Paris. It's these slow starts, like whether or not they're just losing in general hard points, but literally they look to sleep to start off this HP. What do you think is, I'll say this, not necessarily what is the problem, but how do you think that they can start to avoid issues like this? How do you improve what has been slow starts to series, and very clearly here, a very slow start to this hard point?
Well, watching them right off the rip of that hard point, you could just tell that they were playing really safe. Like, they were just playing not to make any mistakes, but if their teammates drop and not win their gunfights, they don't have a plan B. Like, that's the thing. Aqua was that player out towards that P2, just making sure he was staying alive outside of green. But when his teammates drop, eventually he has to push it and get into play, and that's just too late. You allow Minnesota to at least get 20 seconds there, and then eventually flip your entire team out on the opposite side for those spawns. And that's what I'm saying with Paris Legion. They continue to have these slow starts because they just don't have a plan B. If your plan A doesn't work, if you don't get the kills, how are you going to be able to bounce out of it? They haven't yet figured it out, and they continue to lose these hard points that way.
And I know the graphic, unfortunately, was a tad wrong there. They don't snap the streak, but they do actually extend it. Now 6 hardpoint losses in a row for the Paris Legion. Leading the way was Priestahh, 22 and 15, 23 and 18 from Attach. Just in terms of overall kills, they were laying down the damage majority of the time, and it's a nice turnaround, right? If you are Priestahh in the situation, what was his KD yesterday? That was like a 0.6 or something.
Yeah, he had a 0.61 just in hardpoint alone. So him going +7 there, you gotta be feeling good if you're Priestahh.
Yeah, absolutely have to. There you see the reactions from Minnesota, feeling good after a much-needed hardpoint victory. Can they carry that into the search and destroys? A lot of talk on can MajorManiak be the difference in this mode. Now they get the opportunity to do it again. It is Raid S&D up right after this.
Call of Duty League is presented by T-Mobile, now America's largest and fastest 5G network. Set your sights on the competition with T-Mobile, the leader in 5G. USAA Insurance. Easy insurance for your gear, IRL.
All right, folks, like we said, Minnesota, they get the job done in the early hardpoint, winning it in convincing fashion there on Garrison. And now we come into the search and destroy, but I also want to talk to Study about, again, this Minnesota Røkkr team, specifically a player like Standy for this roster, because I think that it's important to touch on his impact that he had for the team when he comes in for Stage 2, a Minnesota team that desperately kind of needed somewhat of a change-up. They get that, and then we kind of saw this honeymoon period where they were dominating teams. I mean, I think I saw a stat that at one point said that Standy had the best debut of any rookie ever, but I guess this kind of does happen in regular sports. I know the stats for him, just in general, the results have kind of, obviously gone downhill more for the Røkkr as time has gone on. Is it fair to say that teams, that players have kind of figured him and the squad out more over time?
Yeah, when he first entered the league, he was like a curveball. You just didn't know what was going to get thrown at you, and then he opens up with a great match versus OpTic, and that was just insane, man. The guy came out and played really well, and then he goes on, and then eventually players are going to start to understand his play style, learn his tendencies on how he plays the game, so they get over that honeymoon stage. A lot of teams now know what to expect out of Standy. Is he going to be that player who's going to be playing that island search and destroy, slowly working up towards that bomb sites, or just being a nuisance? If you're spawning out in one certain part of the map, Standy has to be behind you, and teams are starting to catch on to the way that he plays, and he's still playing at such a high level. I said yesterday in the series versus OpTic, he had a 1.15, and he was the only player positive for these teams, so he's still keeping up that high level play. It's just a lot of players now, when you play against the best, they're going to start to learn what you do, and he's starting to get into that circle where people are starting to catch on to the things that he does.
Yeah, man. It's an interesting conversation to have. We talk about teams like honeymoon periods, players, can kind of come out in their very first series and just dominate. And then at times, that just kind of becomes a little bit more consistent. Got to hear your thoughts on it. And I also wanted to ask you one thing. Coming into the search and destroy, again, Minnesota feeling good, coming into the search and destroy, being up 1-0 where they are. I want to ask you, considering that the Røkkr did play the last series yesterday, do you think that first match, that first hardpoint rather, has anything to do with momentum, considering you literally just played last night? Or do you think that a night of sleep, that, however many hour difference that we have, doesn't play a factor at all?
I think it definitely plays a factor, because obviously Minnesota getting 3-0 yesterday, they're probably not getting any sleep, because who likes to lose? And I know a lot of these players do not like to lose, so it's always on their mind the entire time. So you come in today and you're game ready. And the way that they opened up that hard point, they were said, oh, we're the worst hard point team in the game. Oh, we're going to turn a lot of phases with this one. And they basically 200-point Paris on that map number 1. So they have the momentum now on their side of the being up 1-0. You know what you've got to expect on a map like Raid. You have on one side Paris Legion, who are sitting at 0-4. On the opposite side, you have Minnesota, who are 2-2. But the thing about Minnesota, when you talk about this map, their setups are usually the same. You have Attach and Standy pushing out towards P5. MajorManiak now filling in for accuracy. But now it's going to be left in a 2v2. Priestahh, he's going to drop now. It's MajorManiak left in a 1v1. But they usually keep the same setups, and that's something that really struggles on for them.
It's a 3 versus 2. Now turned into a 1v2. Players right next to each other. Seems as if Minnesota a little bit too slippery to try and find a solid effort out of Priestahh and MajorManiak to try to walk away with it. But it got a little bit scary, but the early fights in toward middle pit do give Legion the advantage, one that they will carry on throughout the remainder of this round. And one thing that I am interested, as Paris do, of course, walk away with the first, is, and I know that you talked about this as we've casted over Minnesota. We had their elimination game from that stage 3 major whenever they dropped versus the Ravens. And your big talking point was that, hey, search and destroy, the reason why it's stagnant is because they're not doing anything different. And I guess by adding a player like MajorManiak, I guess what I'm asking is, how much of a difference do you think he's going to provide this team in terms of changing up their looks? Do you think that that one player can make all the difference in a mode like this?
I think he definitely can have an impact, because one thing that accuracy was meant for this team, he was that island player. He was always that player that if stuff hit the fan and there was a whole bunch of players running at him, he would play his life or at least take down one with him. But with MajorManiak now on this team, he's been always a great S&D mind. So you add him to players like Standy and Attach, who are basically the leaders when you talk about the play calling on this map, when you talk about those SMG players and the presence that they bring. But with that being said, it's going to be a 4v4 bomb retake from Minnesota. They're all going to decide to wrap back through the backside, and Paris Legion are able to take down 2. Now in a 4v2, make it left up to a 1v4 for MajorManiak. He's going to drop, and Paris Legion, they're just picking Minnesota apart, man. They're trying to have some new faces in their pushes, but so far nothing is working.
I guess I could ask the same thing for a player like Zaptius. I know we're talking a lot about Røkkr, Search, Destroy, you know, what obviously they can do now with Major, but I know that in terms of like the London Royal Ravens, like Zaptius, while he was incredibly impactful to that team, it was mostly in the respawns. Like, it was the hardpoint streak. It was their consistency and the control. I know for those who have listened to us talk about Legion a decent amount, where we're constantly talking about Zaptius, the potential impact that he can have for this team, but I think the same could possibly be said for a player like him also in the Search and Destroys. Of course, both these teams do make moves coming into stage 4. MajorManiak for Røkkr and Zaptius for Legion. Known as a great S&D player in the challenger scene is young Zaptius. Really taking a page out of what we saw Legion do last round, trying to get over, I don't want to say overly aggressive, but just try to get out there, get the conversation going, as it will be a quick 3 versus 3. The trade does in fact come in from Standy. Really, for the most part, it is Paris lining up, trying to gather each other toward that back jungle side, and Standy could play huge here, not able to win that fight. A big one for Zaptius to take. First layer from Røkkr down and Attach. He's weak. They know where Major is. They go for the challenge, and Zaptius now sitting on 4 in a row, looking good for Legion, as that is going to be 3 rounds up, 3 rounds down. A solid retake there out of Paris.
I'm loving Paris's recent S&D just gameplay, because yesterday versus Atlanta FaZe, they won it in the 6-1 fashion on the very first time that we've seen standoff being played, but their teamwork was on point, and we usually don't expect that from a team coming off of a roster change. You know, Zaptius being that fresh new face, but so far, in the 10 rounds that these guys have played, they have won 9 of them. So these guys are really on point. Their teamwork is on point in Search and Destroy. And this is a good answer, because this is a game mode that they were struggling with a lot throughout the year. And obviously, starting 0-1 in the series, being able to bounce back in that Search and Destroy is a great answer.
It absolutely is. Like you see 4-1 there from Scraps, 4-1 for Zaptius, 3-1 for Temp. Aqua's just like, cool. Like, we've talked so often about for Paris Legion, like how Aqua needs help. Well, so far throughout this Search and Destroy, he has gotten it. A great answer, considering how the hardpoint went. 3 unanswered rounds. We'll see what they can do on their opening few fights, and that's really just a 3-man challenge through mid, just to secure the first blood on Attach. It's really what you want if you are the offensive team. If you're the attacking team of First Blood, and do wonders, as Priestahh receiving the damage, brought down to 22 HP. Now is left to give the callouts to the roster, but it'll be callouts from the respawn screen. A quick 2 versus 4. Legion now getting the bomb down.
Yeah, so now in a 4v2, it's all up to MajorManiak and Standy. You're going to have Standy, who's going to be playing towards this back basketball court. It's going to be really difficult, because that #1 player is going to call out that player in middle water steps. So especially the pinch is going to come in. MajorManiak's going to drop. All left up to Standy in a 1v4. Make it 1v3 now. 25 seconds left. The challenge is going to come in, and unfortunately, he's going to get traded. And just another clean round right there out of Paris. Slowly picking apart the players from the Minnesota Røkkr. Right there, Røkkr, they decide not to have Standy and Attach play towards middle and put Attach in by himself at that kitchen area. He gets picked. Middle map is open, and Paris Legion, they capitalize on that bomb site.
I gotta be honest, man. I'm kind of shocked right now. Like, I'm surprised that we're seeing Paris come out the way that they are. Again, there was so much talk on this Minnesota team, talking how Search and Destroy, that is going to be their bread and butter. But the way that this one has started, it is, like I said, not been the reunion that they would have at least expected. Again, a solid hardpoint victory, but pretty much a flip-flop, I'm sure, of what a majority of the predictions looked like. We'll see if Minnesota can finally get on the board, as Zaptius, ever confident, ever present throughout the middle pit. And for the moment, he is not going to have anybody to try and challenge him there. A slower start to this round from Minnesota, as they desperately look to hunt for that first blood, and player 3 very well could be a part of it. The shot's in early as there goes Priestahh. Scrap's able to find it, lines up MajorManiak as well there from the ARs. Catch there for the trade, but presence is without a doubt felt. Then doesn't go for the full challenge, but he in fact finds the long shot. Thieves finally gets the engagement he so desperately waited for, and now we've got ourselves a 1 versus 2. Attach, a forgettable search and destroy to start, but he can turn things around in this moment. Gonna run right in to the influx of players, and they will in fact find him out. The SMG duo are able to close out this bad boy as Thieves, well deserved of the defuse, will go ahead and fire away with those streaks, and Paris just killer to start off this S&D stud.
Man, it's just like map number 1, all Minnesota. So far, map number 2, all Paris. Like, can I get a close one, please, between these two great teams?
It would be nice.
So right now, Paris Legion, they're just picking them apart, man. They're just picking them apart. Minnesota, they're just spreading map a little too deep. One player in that was pushing towards raid side, Scraps is able to spot him, eventually win that one-on-one engagement, and then gives the information to his teammates that they must be committing towards B. You eventually set up your teammate in Thieves to peek that corner. He's currently sitting at 6-1, already opened up with an artillery. So at this point, Minnesota, you're down 0-5. It's about to start time to start taking some risk, and that artillery is going to come in. Obviously, the information is going to be there, so Thieves knows he has a free B-bomb plant. Bomb's going to go down. Now it's all up to number 1, who's going to be watching that flank. And how long can he stay alive? At least he's able to take down 1. So now it's a 3v3 situation.
You like the aggressiveness at his Standy, but you look at that 5-0 and you're like, maybe too late. Like the craftiness, the ideas of doing things like that are fine, but we would have liked to seen it somewhat earlier. Standy able to find the second one as well. Meanwhile, inside of Tiki, is Aqua for a moment, and Temp with the ability to shut down the bomb diffuser. That is a major kill. 15 seconds left, but it's all going to be on to Standy, and he will in fact answer the call. A much needed hat trick from one SMG as Attach will lay down the defuse. Røkkr finally get on the board after some craftiness, but against them, we see that 5-1, and you got to give props where it's due. But with this play late from Temp, it nearly got a... Could have been very well 6-0, to be honest with you. I mean, if Temp wins the fight versus Standy, this round is over. This is a 6-0.
Yeah, it has the potential. If Thieves would have just played his life a little better, probably backed up to their spawn and used that artillery strike, they could have been able to close it out in a 6-0. But unfortunately, he drops when it was a 3v3 situation. So Minnesota, they stay alive. They no longer, on the side of Paris, have a ping for that artillery, but a couple nades are going to come in from middle. Unfortunately, Standy, he's going to go for that lay down spot. He's going to get picked. And already Minnesota are down a man now in a 3v4 situation. They're going to try to be aggressive towards Laundry and eventually work this bomb plant.
Aggression worked out last time. We'll see how it works out here, but aggressiveness most likely halted as here comes the artillery from the skies. Can it drop anybody? Explosions aplenty, and really, once those explosions come to an end, it's Priestahh for the instant return. So a quick 2 versus 3. Bomb plant is in, but the aggression over the top is going to be met. Priestahh is able to stay alive. So 40 seconds on the clock. Out of Paris, look to go for the retake as it is Temp. Pretty much gets the call and decides to roam by himself. He is hanging out toward Statue and really can't attach. Find him out. That is the player that they have to single out. Meanwhile, toward middle, Temp may realize, hey, we've got a nice little challenge going over here. 18 seconds. It all is on to Attach again. A 1 versus 3. Scraps is there for the clothesline, and that will be a quick finish to an ultimately quick game of Search and Destroy. A dominant hardpoint replied by a dominant Search and Destroy as Legion get the job done in 7.
Yeah, and that was just great plays right there out of Legion. Like, even in that 3v2 situation, they knew that the bomb plant was going to be down towards the middle of the map. So they were trying to retake from Laundry side, but Scraps, the heads-up player that he is, man, especially in this game mode, we saw him drop double digits yesterday versus Atlanta. He really came out right there and just wrapped completely back around basketball, to go straight up water steps and just single out Priestahh, who was going to be in the middle of the map. Once they eliminate that player, they know it's all left up to Achatz. He's already gave up his positioning on that bottom driveway. He can only wrap back towards the middle of the map, and they just catch him. Paris Legion so far in their last 2 search and destroys, 12-2. They're looking really good in that game mode, and they're able to tie the series up at 1 apiece.
They look clinical, man. A team that was, what, 6-16, coming into stage 4, dominating back-to-back S&Ds. And I know I talked about MajorManiak, his impact for the Minnesota Røkkr in this game mode. Let's go ahead and scratch that, at least for now, and really just highlight Zaptius coming onto this team. He finishes off well, but ultimately it is scraps, as you mentioned, 11-2. We talk so often about kind of different game modes. It was kind of Aqua who was waiting for some help in the respawns. It was Scraps who was also kind of looking for that help, but primarily in the search and destroys. It's fair to say that they've got it, at least in this game mode, as, I mean, honestly, this one is kind of surprising to me. Like, I did not expect for Minnesota to come out of the gates the way that they did, and then for Paris to dominate the way that they did in search and destroy again. I thought it may have just been on standoff, but clearly that is not the case. Oh boy, I honestly have no idea how to call this series from here. This does not go the way that I think either of us predicted, but one thing that we have to do, though, is quickly revisit, I believe it was round 3 here, for our U.S. Army tactical play. Again, we talked about big plays. This one, of course, was in fact Zaptius getting the job done. One of the many major rounds that gave Paris the advantage early.
Yeah, so right there, this is when Temp was pushed out towards Laundry side, and now it's all about a 3v3 retake on both sides. Eventually, the bomb has to get planted for Minnesota, but you see what Zaptius and the players from Paris Legion decide to do. They make sure no players are going to run around towards the backside, but Zaptius, he's going to be the aggressive submachine gun. He's able to slide this corner and open up with that first blood. And then eventually, it just all comes down to trades, man. They know the positioning from Attach. As he does get spotted on the cross, they eventually find this player out towards top laundry. Turns into a 3v1 situation. Zaptius was just hitting every single bullet right there with that SMG. Opening plays with the 2-piece. Eventually turns it into a 3v1. Paris Legion, once again, another team push to retake.
Yeah, all about the teamwork. And Legion, they're making it work to start off. You see the reactions, a very hype Paris team as they're able to respond. Can we call this a close series? I guess we have to. I mean, hey, it is 1-1. Now coming into the control, who will grab the advantage as we are staying on raid for this? Make sure to stay with us, folks.
Call of Duty League is presented by T-Mobile, now America's largest and fastest 5G network. Set your sights on the competition with T-Mobile, the leader in 5G. Scuff, the official controller of the Call of Duty League. Seany, the official eyewear for the CDL. Armor your eyes with Seany Blocks blue light protection glasses by visiting seany.com/gaming.
We should be fine. What's your type, little mama?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to day 3 of the Chicago home series as we get ready to hop into game 3 of this series. See what I did there, stud? Like that?
I like that.
All right,
I like
okay,
that.
all right, you know.
That's pretty good.
I gotta say though, I don't understand. I really have not understood this series, but one thing that we can understand, at least coming into this, is the control ranks, right? For one team, it has not been so good in Paris, right? They sit 10th right now in the CDL. On the other side for Minnesota, they currently sit 5th. Well, it hasn't been the best 2-game stretch for Minnesota and their last 2 controls overall, stud. This has been the mode that they've been relying on throughout the season.
Yeah, man, this is their stage 3 game mode because obviously they were terrible at hardpoint. They weren't really that good in search and destroy, so this is the game mode that kept them alive in a lot of these series. And they're gonna go into a raid control, which is one of their better maps. They're sitting at a 9-5 record. On the opposite side, you have Paris Legion, who just came off of a loss of it versus Atlanta FaZe recently, so they're sitting at 3-6. So this map basically is gonna come down to me for the battle of the SMGs because we know how aggressive SMGs can be on this map, what positionings they can take, especially around that kitchen area. You have to be able to keep track of Minnesota's players in their SMG duo and attaching Standy, because if they're able to catch that 8 point nice and early, and then you give them a lot of time to eventually set up one push to push them towards kitchen and eventually spawn those players towards back laundry, that's the only pushes they need because they're just so good at just staying alive with their SMG players and just building those streaks up that it's going to be really difficult for Paris to try to break out. Hopefully, you have Zaptius, you have Scraps who are able to answer them.
Yeah, as you said, SMG battle, the one to highlight, the one to put in bold is what player 1, player 2, player 6, player 7, really the arrows, the numbers that you do want to look at on that mini-map. We can't stress it enough, right? We're always looking at the mini-map from time to time, and you are a new viewer. Sometimes bottom left of your screen can give you all the information that you need. Obviously, our wonderful observer team is showing us everything possible. But here we go into our first round. Minnesota beginning on the attack as it is Aqua laying down the damage early, make it 3 in a row to start, as all of that progress will in fact add to 1 tick, but Legion there quickly on the reply as Zaptius with the nice reactions through Zig, trying to halt this one for as long as they can. Again, familiar territory for this Legion team, just got done winning raid search and destroy, as Temp is somehow cleaning up kills through the statue itself. I did not know that you could do that.
Yeah, and it's just difficult because Minnesota, their initial push was shut down. So now it allows players like Scraps to head up and hit that flank side, and he's able to at least pick up 1, trying to take down the second in MajorManiak. But his teammate is there in Aqua, able to eliminate the last 2, and still 45 seconds remaining. Already a 7 live advantage for the Paris Legion. Minnesota, they do not have a point. They only have 1 tick on towards that 8 point. And now they're slowly just trying to work out of their spawn because they know the positioning of Paris Legion players. They have full map control. It's another 2 down. And now they finally have an opening with MajorManiak getting that 2-piece to go towards that B site.
And again, it's the flanks. Aqua, if he turns the corner just in time. Actually, he's not going to. He knows exactly where to look. Forget what I just said, iLLeY. Don't worry about it. Attached, meanwhile, has made his way up to basketball court, so that will be a major double. As the clock will halt itself right now at 26 and some change. Stack is in. There's the second tick, but there'll need to be this consistency as here comes Paris for the return. Player 3, somewhat off the distance. Aqua will hang out in what will be the recovery. So nice heads up play, but that B capture does come in nonetheless. As Minnesota do get it done in the later stages, and almost an unorthodox play, but will actually force themselves through water side. Paris are somewhat there to read it. Trades back and forth, a minute on the clock, and still 2 ticks to go.
Yeah, so Minnesota know that with their teammates spawning out towards that water area, that there has to be a couple players from Paris Legion in towards this art room. And this is exactly where Zaptius is. They have that back control, but they're trying to set up the pinch. And here comes Standy and his duo in attach. Those SMGs keeping their presence on the map. If they can eliminate these players from this laundry area, this is the best case scenario. Trades come in. They have to try to locate Aqua, but he's just having such a great map so far. 15-5 lives remaining for the Minnesota Røkkr. Make it 4 now, and this is just a great round right here out of Paris. Good beginning opening to at least shut down that initial push onto that 8 point. You fight for the map control. You keep the live advantage the entire time, and you should be able to close this one out here.
it's been somewhat of an unorthodox round. Like if you were to tell me, Stud, that like, oh yeah, Minnesota, you know, they do start off a little bit slow, but they get some really good time over at that B point, I probably would have assumed that this would be a round for Røkkr, but not at all the case. There's just been so much dominance. 2 versus 7 as we do halt. Take a moment to breathe, but one final player left on the point. The final man standing is MajorManiak. He will in fact be dealt with, but again, it was just so much dominance on this side of the map for Paris, and I was going to assume it's probably Aqua, right? It has to be Aqua at some point. Put on a show a number of different times as that Krig is firing today. Maybe not on Garrison, but ever since we have been on Raid, a nice little throwback. Aqua showing us why he does in fact have some of the best gun skill in the game. Ends out our first round at 10-6. A solid beginning across the board when we talk about slaying for the Legion. And now we'll see what they can do coming into their first attack.
And this is a struggle that Legion had versus Atlanta. They just weren't able to keep up with the slaying. When you're playing against the big dogs, it's going to be hard to kill them all the time. And you had 3 players that were sitting in the negative KD. The only one positive throughout that control was Temp. He was actually at a 1.13, so he's just going to keep up that slaying. And when you have players like Aqua, players like Zaddies who are really stepping up so far in the beginning of this map, it's a great way to build that momentum. MajorManiak, he's able to eliminate that player in Temp on towards that point. And just the same exact start that Paris Legion had on their very first offense, Minnesota have the same exact thing. And now they force all of Paris Legion to hit towards that B point.
Yeah, the most strategies being brought out. It does get somewhat quiet for a moment, but the shots quickly beginning to echo throughout this water side as they will in fact line up there for Major. A quick 4 down. With a minute 10 on the clock, the awareness for Paris is instantly toward driveway, specifically toward this A point, right where Attach is running right into the angle that he was holding for a moment. But again, trades back and forth, solid plays overall from Minnesota. What has been the last, maybe solid minute. Paris looking for the reply, and it will be a nice little entry there for Temp. We'll see if Legion can somewhat carry off of that. Big fight for Aqua going down over at Mansion as well. But you see those two in the feed, just like that. Legion, some progress made and some progress forwarded yet again. 35 on the clock. Something has to be done now.
Yeah, so Minnesota, they're doing a great job. And this is in Paris Legion's struggle all year. They are the last team in attacking rounds. They just cannot get the job done on this side of the mode. With Minnesota still having map control, they're deciding to push straight through Kitchen and trying to come up behind a couple players from Minnesota to get out towards this B point. But got to think about it just in case it does go to that round number 5. Okay. Right now, only 2 ticks in for Paris Legion, but they're able to chain a couple kills together. They're trying to complete this B point. The second tick is able to come in, and they're only down 5 lives. So if they're able to extend this clock by an extra minute, they definitely have a good shot with at least 2 going down there to close this one out.
Oh, but a nice double from Priestahh. 1 player left on the point. That was Zap. Despite Priestahh coming away with a nice double kill. Really took down every single player. Final one up was Zaphius at his foot just on the edge of the control point. And that will be a capture. So like we said, very similar rounds in comparison for both teams. I guess you could say a little bit more of a slower start for Paris in regards to this attack. But still 45 seconds on the clock. They do have 1 tick. Scraps looks to lay down the groundwork. No teammate support coming in from the flank, but nonetheless, that will be 3 down for Røkkr regardless. As things do start to get scary. That life count now heavily in favor of Minnesota. That clock heavily in favor of the Røkkr. On the 4 spree is Major. And anybody from Paris makes somewhat of an attempt as the flank will in fact be clear, and Zaphius did not spot the head there of Major. With that, we'll leave Legion in a world of pain. 3-10. They do get the opening, but what can they do with it? It has to be the stand here, the final stand, if you will. Aqua does find the first, but players from the flank leave Zaphius all by himself. 1 versus 8, can he do it? The answer is no. Røkkr, they reply back.
Yeah, and Røkkr right there, they just saved themselves just in case it does go to that round number 5. They did not let Zaphius complete that second tick on towards that 8 point. So right now, Minnesota are leading by 1 tick. I'm pretty sure they're winning in that kill column as well. with the MajorManiak really having himself a game. And this is one thing that Minnesota were really struggling with, is just the AR presence in a game mode like Control. You see Priestahh, he's not having too much of a hot one, but MajorManiak really stepping up for his team, holding down that 8-point as best as he can the entire time he was by himself. So this time around, Minnesota, they're going to commit towards that 8-point once again. Let's not try to get 3-piece by Aqua and let this play break again. This time they're going to have 2 players on it. First tick is already going to come in. Just keep in mind, look at Aqua. He's just playing such like a rat, able to just play his life perfectly, able to take down 2 and disrupt the push out of Minnesota.
Yeah, that's such a great play from him, because I feel like if you are Røkkr in that situation, knowing how your first attack went, you're fully expecting, right, that guy to be top laundry, ready to mow you down. I mean, the guy has to have like an angle to start it off, but no, he plays his life, plays it slow, right when the Røkkr kind of assume they've got control over the point. That is when Aqua lays down the double. A great play coming through from him. Again, a player that started off the stage great, despite, you know, Legion having what was kind of a rough stage 2 into stage 3. Really for him, first 2 stages were great. However, in that stage 3, really started to struggle, and really based off of that, you see them go for the roster change to bring in Zaptius from the Ravens, and still to be seen on how much of an impact it can have, but I guess kind of excluding that opening hardpoint stud, which we could talk about for a number of different reasons why it went that way. Maybe not even have the full solution. This Legion team, definitely from a strategy perspective, looks to have changed up their game. A lot of players kind of going on flanks, more unorthodox type of styles. Røkkr will put in the final few moments here at A, but we'll see if Legion can kind of continue on with that craftiness, as they're going to have to hold well here for a minute 30.
Yeah, and this is going to be difficult because, look, you have Standy and Attach already in this kitchen area. You're going to have all 4 players from Paris Legion already down towards lower pool side. But how can they play this? Can they stay alive, stay pushed out towards bedroom, and Standy's able to take down 1. So now here comes the pinch from his teammates in towards basketball. Attach gets the second, Priestahh with the third off the spawn. So now they have to try to locate 2 players. Do they understand that there's 1 player in towards bedroom and 1 player in Teak? Aqua's able to take down 1, but they still know that Zaptius' position is in from the bedroom side. The first tick does come in from B, but with just a submachine gun duo on that side of the map, all they have to do is just stay alive, and hopefully their team is able to win those engagements on the opposite side of the map. But Zaptius able to get 2 before doesn't drop, and Aqua with the 3rd.
And Temp, thank you very much for the 4th. Also a trophy for good measure. Zaptius making the plays up close. As you said, Stud finds the major double kill. No pun intended there for Maniac, but see what he can continue to do. Again, 40 seconds left if you're Minnesota. You know he's got to be around here. And the nice punch there from Priestahh. Beats him down, slams him down, and sends him to who knows where off the side of Raid. As 25 seconds left in this round. Can it continue to be defense that wins out? But look toward the backside. It is the flank. It's the SMGs trying to cause some issues, but it's Zaptius again on both sides of this control point, going big for the team. He has to go for the reload, I guess. Who knows? Those 9 shots could in fact be impactful, but really with Attach back here, he's just trying to make some noise, but is there any reason for it? Is there any solution that can come from it? This 1v1 that feels like it's lasted a lifetime will in fact go the way of Attach. That's going to be a nice 3, Minnesota. No respawns left, but have they done enough? Halfway there, a minute on the clock. Rather, excuse me, a second on the clock. For Legion, they've got to get here quick. And they get here in time as they start to run in from basketball. They line up, and it will be a victory for Minnesota in this round. Huge plays toward the stretch. No respawns, no problem.
I just can't believe that Minnesota just did that. Like, the fact that Attach, he knew exactly what he needed to do for his team. You had your teammates who were spawning out towards the back garage side. They pushed out towards bedroom, but Attach, he knew his life was the most important one on the map. And Zaptius kept on throwing shoulders at him to try to get him to reposition or try to get him to commit to that gunfight. But Attach's able to walk out there when the time is right, take out 1, maybe take out the 2nd as well, and eventually stall time for Standy to get into the play. That was just such a 2v4 clutch out of the SMG duo or the side of Minnesota Røkkr. If they do not make the plays as they just did, they do not walk away with this round, and you already see the pace is going to change. This time, Paris Legion are going to try to commit towards the speed point. Temp and Scraps able to win 2 gunfights on their side of the map, but still, No progression on either one of these points right now. If you're Minnesota, all you have to do is just get out of your base and keep these guys off, and you should be able to close it out.
And Temp maybe a little bit frustrated after how that round came to a close. Pulls out the Diamante, switches back to the Krig, and there will be some nice assistance there for the third. Solid work early done for Legion, but again, that round, it has to sting. That is a round that I definitely want to see broken down later in the day. The nice reaction there as the ARs combine for the kill on the Temp. One tick through so far at B, but and if you are Legion, considering where you're at, now have to transfer, given the spawns, now over toward A. And this fight very well could decide whether or not we see this one come to a close in 4. How big can Røkkr go here on the defense? The time will be stopped for the moment. Zaptius awaiting the callouts, waiting for the cavalry to arrive, but here come the SMGs from the back, rather than Standy and Priestahh. You never know, he could have an SMG out depending on the fight, but it will be one tick through for the moment. Paris are able to see some clear skies, but can Priestahh cause enough of a problem? Can MajorManiak be annoying enough on the flank? Have they done enough? As it'll be 2. One more left inside of the point will be Temp. Paris still holding strong, as MajorManiak will realize the best position for him is to back up, as that A point will go to the hands of Legion.
So now that A point has been captured, Minnesota, they were just trying to end the game there, but unfortunately they're not able to pick up those kills, so time is going to get extended by a minute. But you see the positioning out of their players. You have 2 players pushing towards bedroom. One player, actually make it 2 players watching the backside of the kitchen, just trying to play off these trade kills, but Attach gets a little bit overzealous right there, tries to commit to the gunfight on the scraps. Eventually he gets taken down, but Standy and Priestahh able to take down 2, Attach with the 3rd. Now it's all left up to scraps. Was the last player in his position towards kitchen. With a minute left, MajorManiak is on a 5 spree, and he's that player that's going to be sitting out towards bedroom, but he drops, so now it's all left up to Standy, and Standy times it perfectly. He's not able to get the second, so that's going to be bedroom control in favor of the Paris Legion, but with 45 seconds left, they have about 1 to 2 more good pushes until Minnesota are able to close this one out.
How do you want to see Paris engage this? Again, with the time, given the lives, given the way that the map currently sits, what do you think their best and most favorable position is to attack this?
Right now, they're doing what they have to. They have to take control of kitchen. They have to eventually work out those kills towards back basketball and then eventually spawn the players from Minnesota towards that laundry side. And you see, this is their last push. They have to commit towards this, but MajorManiak, he's in such a great position. They open up the first blood, but MajorManiak's able to find 2, make it Standy with the 3rd, and there's only 1 player remaining from Paris Legion, which is going to be Temp. He's able to take down 1. 6 to 9 lives remaining. Priestahh with the trade, and time is starting to tick. Minnesota should be able to close it out here.
They like their chances. Priestahh finds a second. MajorManiak, the explosion for good measure, as it will be a victory again for the Røkkr, replying once more in the respawns. A back and forth control, but ultimately it does favor Minnesota toward the stretch. A back and forth game, but what was 2 back-to-back hard losses in control for Minnesota have now been wiped away. A major W here versus the Legion, as they now find themselves up in this series 2-1.
Just got to go back to that play, man, with the Attach. He was the only player in towards basketball. He knows the timing. He knows exactly what he needs to do for his team, and he's able to slide out to the point, stop that clock, and then not win 1, but win 2 engagements. And that's Paris Legion, where you need to be able to close that out, because you know how bad your team is on those offensive rounds. And then once Attach gets that 2, he stalls enough time for eventually Standy to get on towards that point. He trades that kill onto Attach, but then wins the second gunfight as the player tries to jump out of money. It was just such a great play and such a devastating loss right there for Paris. If they close that one out, they have the potential to go into that round number 5, but Minnesota, they clutch up. I said it before that map started. It came down to the play of Standy and Attach, and in the rounds where they needed it the most, they come out on top.
They do indeed, man. That play, like I said, it's going to be one that I'm sure will be broken down by many people. Many Twitter analysts, many actual analysts as well. Who knows? Maybe Amos is already getting the paperwork done on that one, but MajorManiak putting in the work. 32 and 23 for the dub. Again, it was an early respawn victory in the hard point. Minnesota feeling confident coming into our next HP. Is this where the series ends, or is it where it only begins? Comparison is to a game 5, or is this one done here? It is Moscow HP up right after the break. Alrighty, folks, it is nearly time for us to hop into this game 4 again on Moscow. It has been a very interesting series up to this point when we talk about how things have gone, but again, so far throughout this bad boy, it has been Minnesota answering in both of the respawns, winning them somewhat convincingly. Of course, the hardpoint more in comparison to the control. But on that raid, search, destroy, Paris have come out and looked fantastic in those S&Ds. But again, getting back to that hardpoint conversation, we got to talk a little bit more in depth here, Stud, about Minnesota. Like I said, at times, hardpoint, it's been good, but you look at those ranks and nothing really tells you that there's anything too standoutish.
Yeah, it's definitely not standoutish besides Attach and Standy as that SMG duo sitting at a 1.04, 1.04 together. But just overall, when you talk about this team in their hardpoint, it just hasn't been good all year, man. They're the worst team that we have in this game mode, and definitely showing when you talk about those ranks, when you have MajorManiak sitting at 29th, Priestahh sitting at 41, those are your assault rifle players that you really need to be able to step up. But just looking at that game 1 hardpoint stats, you see MajorManiak was here, Priestahh was here, and so was Attach. The entire team actually played really well, but you usually don't see this type of gameplay, this type of consistency when you're looking at the Minnesota Røkkr. Yeah. Their AR players tend to struggle a lot, and their submachine guns always show out. But when you have MajorManiak and Priestahh playing the way that they have been so far throughout this series, that hard points and respawns in general should be a lot easier for this team.
And now focusing specifically, I know we're talking about hard point, of course, because it is our next game. Let's talk specifically, like, more specific, right? Moscow HP. What we saw Minnesota play yesterday versus OpTic, they went down 188 to 60, but they were able to make a 120-point comeback and were able to make that game go down to the wire, as OpTic would only win it, I think, by like maybe 10 or 12 points, something on those lines. 12 points.
Yeah.
From what you saw from the start of Minnesota, Stud, now today, how do you want to see Minnesota improve from what you noticed were some mistakes yesterday?
Just to not start off slow. And it wasn't really like they were making a lot of mistakes. They just weren't able to pick up kills. Yeah. Like, they were allowing Dashy to go on 5 sprees. They were allowing Formal to really take over. And Envoy, he had himself a series yesterday. No one could guard him on the map. So Minnesota, they just need to start off this game a little earlier, because obviously versus OpTic yesterday, they closed out that game 250 to 238 with almost having one of the most insane comebacks we've seen throughout the entire year. We weren't able to get the job done, but it's all about the early start, man. It's all about just making sure that you're doing the correct things and not doing the wrong things like Paris Legion did the entire first map. Make sure that you're winning your rotation gunfights, staying alive, make sure you're watching your cam, and winning your trade situations. In Minnesota, they should be set.
We'll see how they fare off. Again, less than 24 hours later, as the quick little duel is in. MajorManiak does win out for the moment, at least gets the street cred, but Legion, they'll lock it into spawns. That will be the topic of conversation. I feel like recently on Moscow, it is all about those P2s. Who's holding them versus who is dropping a rotation that they shouldn't have. Who wasn't watching a lane that they should have. And really, so far from Paris, you've seen Minnesota kind of get aggressive. Legion, they back up, just wanting to make sure that they will and truly have that P2 in their hands. As toward the later stretches, Aqua, one of the binding players, hanging out toward Boulevard. You see him, he's going to get pretty much triple teamed. And with that, the push is on 32-1. That score very much could start to change if plans go the way of Legion. So we'll see what Minnesota's attempt is. Player 5, I believe that was Standy, trying to make, or rather, excuse me, MajorManiak was trying to make an attempt from the front. He gets silenced. At the same time, Legion will hold on well. But given those spawns, Minnesota, if they do have all 4 players grouped up, this is going to be a battle again.
Yeah, Minnesota, they just got to get out. They do not know that all the Paris Legion players are going to be spawning out towards street, so trades are going back and forth. Eventually, Scraps is able to take down 3 before all his teammates are able to spawn back up, but his teammates are spawning out. Right now, Minnesota, they do have those back spawns, and it's going to be a huge one-on-one engagement across the map between Mr. Aqua and Mr. Priestahh, but Aqua is going to be able to win it, so the rotation should go in favor of Paris Legion. Minnesota are going to be able to get this remaining junk time so they can grow their lead a little bit more, but if you're Paris, you're not even worried about it. You're fighting for that rotation, fighting for that setup, and they get the job done here. So now it's time to add some more time to this clock.
Man, I'll tell you what, if we could have saw Legion, whenever those spawns did flip, right, so that they did not have the favorable spawns, but with those 25 seconds left, it could have been so solid for them. Only grabbed 17 seconds on the hill that they had the rotation for, but now they've been given the rotation now toward Fountain, and they're making it work. The Krigs are out. The Krigs are firing. Now we're within 10. Minnesota quickly needing a reply of some sort. And Zaptius, aware of the push, starts to line him up. Really just back and forth. Kind of, I guess you could say, somewhat of a standard hard point. We talk about how Moscow could work, my friend. Like I said, you got Muddy Hill after Muddy Hill. If you lock them down, you can quickly see a score change begin to come into play. And so what was not the greatest first two hills allows for Legion to take the advantage. Now coming into our final one, you're on Boulevard.
Yeah, and the only thing is that Minnesota, they're winning the engagements off the rotation. You have a couple players who are spawning out towards back bank, but this is going to be a huge engagement between MajorManiak and Scraps. Scraps is able to win it, so that's going to spawn out his teammates closer to the hill and eventually set up that pinch as Minnesota are spawning out all the way towards P2, but Standy, he wins the one-on-one engagement in towards bank. And now, what was the pinch setup coming in from Paris Legion now is Minnesota. So now Minnesota, with two players spawning out behind them, only one player remaining in towards this bus area, they're able to eliminate him, and now eventually start putting some more score on towards the scoreboard and getting back into this game.
A back and forth game to start, and if you're Legion, at the very least, it is a much better beginning than how that Garrison started off the rip. Again, a big game for Legion. We talked about if they were to lose this, they'd go down 0-2 in this group. I want to say necessarily lives are on the line, but you could very well say at this point how competitive the CDL is. Every game, every map, every series, it matters. And with their backs and somewhat against the wall, we'll now go and step aside and take a gander at the comms, given how valuable of a position this is right now for Paris. As we'll go to our Astro listening with Legion.
I said last one.
Yeah, I'm good. I'll spawn P for you. I can get you left pinch. I need left pinch.
Guy plant stop. Plant Priestahh weak. I plant the guy plant stop. There's a trophy this side. There's a trophy this side. One my pinch gold. One my pinch gold. Yeah, I hurt. I should go pinch.
I'm marching it. I'm back P2. Play Eskies.
Yeah, Eskies. Plat and Eskies. Alright, we're gonna flip. It's fine. It's fine.
PD. I spawn.
Comms. Well, Major, one shot.
Tree bagging it back PD.
One shot globe. I'm premier globe heady. I don't see him.
PD dead.
Big kills.
I'm one shot aBeZy.
I'm here.
He killed me.
One person there. This guy's close tree.
I spawn front, guys. I spawn front.
He's mid plat. Yeah, he's
side up.
I hear you on the side up.
Side
up, Seany. Weak as fuck.
I can get time.
Back window. I have a trophy on Tom.
Top PD attach.
I can't put that PD. I'm gonna fight the I have your plat rush.
He only has a sub.
Top PD.
Kill this kid.
They're still up there.
Rushing
be front on me, dude. Yo, your plat's open. I gotta get
set. I was gonna be front. Top. I
can window dead. I'm just looking plat. Okay.
Be front. Front. One's in the back. Yeah,
front there. I'm in the back. Go on. Get time. I'm
open.
I have all of mid.
Two front, guys.
I have all of mid. I'm rotating, actually. I'm rotating. The guy front. They could be mid. I'm rotating.
I'm rotating now. Guys,
should we get that 30?
Just spawn behind us now.
Yeah, watch it low.
Talking about a back and forth hard point, you get to listen with the comms there of Legion, and again, you kind of hear the expressions, the importance of how valuable that last hill was for them. And Stud Scraps, he tries to stay alive for as long as he can. He buys just enough time to give Paris the edge. As now we're in toward Fountain, and this time around, it is Priestahh who's having to go big for the squad. He does get found out, and this could be a great chain if Paris are able to lock down the early second.
Yeah, and the only thing is, as soon as you say that, it's going to be two players from Minnesota who are going to be spawning out towards the backside. So Priestahh is able to take down one. The pinch is going to come in from the front, and no time is going in favor of Paris Legion. So now that completely flips on its head. Minnesota are the team that wins the rotation, are able to put some more score to try to tie this game up. All you have to do is just try to play your life in the backside. Eventually, it will be a tie game. You see all of Paris Legion committing towards that back push. Trades are going to come in. Standy and Attach hitting great shots. Do they find the third onto Zaptius? They do not. So with those players dropping right there, Paris Legion are going to spawn out towards back library and should be able to get this remaining 20 seconds. But the only thing is, Priestahh already set up off the rotation.
He is indeed. P-Dog is prepared on the prowl. And how about the nice 3 in the feed there for Røkkr? The best way that you can start off a new rotation is they're going to be down by about 20 coming into this one. We'll see what they can do with that advantage given this point in the game. Really, no standout performers from the Røkkr side. Only player that is somewhat slow out of the gates is Temp at 8-16. We talk about how great of a series that he had despite the loss versus Atlanta, put up a 1.13 KD, one of his highest, if not his highest KD that he's had with Paris since he joined the team at the start of Stage 3. There's so many dangerous players on this Paris roster, as really with that, they will be able to overtake and slang. The team fight will in fact go in their favor, despite the rotation there for Røkkr. Really the definition of this hardpoint, back and forth, hard-nosed slang. A slobber knocker indeed, as aBeZy will be able to escape with his life, and that life in particular could come back to bite Røkkr, given the positioning, given how this next set of rotations is going to be set up. Again, Paris from one side and aBeZy on the other. We'll see if he will in fact be found out. aBeZy most likely looking for comms. And sitting on that force break, MajorManiak spot him. Does aBeZy see the barrel of the gun? Goes for the challenge, and there it is. Major overall walks away with the trade. 150 to 171 with that fight. Minnesota are prepared for next.
Yeah, they're prepared for next, and they're also getting a lot of time off of this P1 hardpoint. So now Paris Legion, they have to try to break through gold. They have to try to go through side street, but the crossfire is set up, and that's going to be another 3 down for Paris Legion. The last player alive is going to be Aqua. Don't really like the challenge, but you still have a teammate on there, still picking up some time. And with them picking up that kill right there, that's going to spawn all of Paris Legion towards the backside. So now it's all about Minnesota keeping the spawns for that P2, not dying off of this rotation. And Priestahh, him answering with 1 Temp, unfortunately with the team kill, should allow Minnesota to at least spawn out close, but one player is going to spawn out towards all the way deep street. You're going to have 3 players from Paris Legion trying to commit towards the front. It's all unattached right now. Can he hold the push?
Big position. Again, the SMGs trying to make their way outside of light. An attach hold down to 13 HP. Tries to go to the corner, but again, it's aBeZy who wins the fight. But of course, it's Standy watching over his fellow teammate. Tosses out the nade, gives her prayer, and just like that, again, what appears to be another lead change coming in. But take a look at player 4, Temp. He's back. He's back PD. He will in fact be spotted, so that very well could have been a disaster for Røkkr, but they are able to hold on. One last push here for Paris, and doesn't appear that it will be a successful one. Last player alive, Aqua, he goes for the challenge, but will in fact drop. Right around 216 to 185 should be the score as we come in toward Fountain. Last time around, Legion were able to hold it well. And a much needed hill for Legion. A break here for Røkkr very well could be the game as Minnesota look to gear up for their first push.
Yeah, Paris Legion just have someone consistently blocking that back spawn. They cannot allow Minnesota to have that sneaky spawn towards the backside to set up a pinch. So right now, Paris Legion only being down 14 points. They have a full setup. It's all about can they hold the line and just win their first engagement battles. Priestahh, he's going to open up with 1. Attach with the second, and now Minnesota, they're in. Attach is going to be able to jump over the wall, and the spawns are going to be flipped. So now Paris Legion, they have to try to hold from the front. Standy and Attach doing great work, but Aqua with better shots, able to eliminate both players. With 20 seconds remaining, neither team can win off of this hard point. They have to get over towards that street side, and look who it is. MajorManiak, the new guy. Well, the sort of new guy. Off the rotation nice and early. Fortunately, he's going to get spotted by Scraps, but Minnesota are here first.
Paris, 217 to 217. Tie up the game coming in toward Boulevard. What has been kind of really dominant games throughout our first 3. Now here in our 4th game, coming down to the wire. As Priestahh lays down a big kill to start things off. Minnesota in a 3 versus 1 advantage as they look to collapse on in the hill. Meanwhile, Legion now over toward the backside. Some shaky shots for Standy, but he at least is able to land the ones that matter the most alongside of his squad mates. We're able to find a few. 230, 224. Legion are going to have to go for the break. They're going to need to hold this one for a decent amount of time. MajorManiak, the first line down. aBeZy is able to find 2. Can he find the 3rd? He and Scraps will be able to do that, but it's Priestahh locking down time in the bus, but your time is done. Scraps doing everything he can to just at least delay for as long as he can, and it will do enough to send us back toward P1. And as the dust begins to settle, Legion gonna be in a spot to lock this one up, as they'll only need 8 more seconds. A push from Røkkr is imminent, but where's it gonna come from? Are they gonna be able to read it? Attach is able to find the first and also stays alive. Attach just stayed alive, but he eventually does get found out. Players dropping from either side. Minnesota get enough bodies in the hill to at least a contest for the moment, as that will be 3 strong in the hill. The time stopped at 27 seconds. 2:41 to 2:47. Have Minnesota done just enough? Paris, they have to go for the break. There's one. There's the second. 2:48. Have Minnesota done it? And they have. Minnesota come away with the thrilling hard point close. Back and forth we went. Constant team changes. And a hard point to remember, but it will be Minnesota coming out as victors and walking away with a grueling series.
Man, in that final moments, that had my blood just going, man. Like, I can literally feel the hair standing up on the side of my arm. That was such an insane ending to that hard point. You had Paris Legion, who off the rotation was set up nice and early. They actually got 2 players off the rotation as well, and it was all left up to Attach and his teammate in MajorManiak. Attach comes down from Eskies, and he's able to win the first engagement. Then MajorManiak with the trade, and eventually it's getting contested at that point. But you're allowing your teammates to come off spawn and be able to help you in towards that middle point. And then once they eliminated Scraps from that point, you spawning all the Paris Legion all the way out towards the back of P2. Zaptius, he was taking his time trying to go around Eskies, trying to set up that pinch, eventually gets the kill, but when he picks up that kill, across the map, all of his teammates dropping. Once he slides down Eskies, it was an easy read from Minnesota. They get that kill, they turn around, pick up the last player coming out of gold, and Minnesota in those final moments, even in a 4v2 situation, still clutch up.
Oh my goodness. What a hard point. What a way to close out this series. I know we said at the start of this one, Stoney, like, okay, you know, it's been a close series, but it's also not been a close series. Like, it's been neck and neck, but really a lot of the games hadn't been all that close. Well, there we go. We got our wish. A 3-point hard point victory there for Minnesota. Obviously, you see the excitement, the elation on one side, and really for Paris, I think it was what, like 1, I forget the exact, you know, overall numbers, but I think they're 1-8 in their last 9 series. A tough way for them to lose, and kind of in similar fashion, Stud. Like, we talked about the hardpoint losses, the control losses, just the respawns not going their way. But they are improving in the search and destroy, so you take that however you'd like, but go from one mode to the next. We got to revisit the ending moments to that hardpoint. Just absolutely unbelievable plays. So we'll revisit this one for our scuff play of the game. Stud, do your best, my man. Make through the webs. Get everything you can out of this. What did you see toward the closing moments of this HP?
So right here, as soon as this P4 is already started, you see that Hill is going back and forth between both teams, but Paris Legion, they were able to break through the front and not allow Minnesota to have that chance to win on that street hill anymore. So now it all comes down to Attach right here. He knows that he has to get towards Eskies. Route man gets paid in this situation, but early off the rotation, Paris Legion, only needing 8 points, are going to be the first team in. They're able to find 2 kills, but as I say that, Zaptius, he's going to push down towards the middle, and Attach gets perfect timing on him. He stalls enough time right here just sitting in this corner to eventually set up Priestahh and MajorManiak to pick up those 2 kills. Standy comes in, then out to 3v1 on the point. Now with 15 seconds, it's all it takes for this team to win. They notice that all the Paris Legion are spawning out towards street, but it's a huge one-on-one engagement from Zaptius that comes in from that top Eskies side. The trade comes in from Priestahh, but once they figure that out, that Zaptius is coming from Eskies, they know where that next player is. They figure out where Zaptius is. They turn around and get perfect timing onto that player coming out of gold. And Minnesota, even like I said, in a 4v2 situation, still are playing patient enough, waiting for their teammates to come to try to execute that play, and they get the job done here.
Wonderful breakdown, Stud, and well, I guess we can kind of break down the rest of the schedule that Røkkr have. A grueling first 2, but they do get the job done here versus Paris. I think we said less than 24 hours after their last match versus OpTic, which happened late last night. Still have the Surge, Thieves, and FaZe to match up against. And, you know, at this point, like we said, 1-1, you'll take it. You would have liked a better performance versus OpTic, but you get through the series that you knew you had to get through. And really from there, still some unknowns. Obviously, like we said, for Minnesota Røkkr, things looking slightly better. On the other side for Legion, a rough way to go about it, right? Losing all of their respawns up to this point. They have looked good in the search and destroys. Kind of a total flip-flop from what we've seen from the first 3 stages. Now here to this 4th stage. They've got Thieves up next.
Yeah, it's really difficult because you started off the stage with Atlanta FaZe, they're the big dog. You were expecting to go in there and possibly lose that match, but Minnesota, this is a team who has been struggling with. And after your performance yesterday, coming in with a new face in Zaptius, you felt like you had the possibility at taking this series. And you obviously, if you showed up the same way you played yesterday in that game one in that hard point, then you would have had a better chance. But unfortunately, they start off too slow once again, and Minnesota capitalized.
Minnesota capitalized again. Just a quick little look at the rest of the games that we have. A wonderful schedule to wrap up today, as our first of 3 is in the books, but it's a happy MajorManiak, as he'll be joining alongside myself here in just a few moments for our Game Fuel Victory Spotlight. We'll be back with that interview right after this.
Call of Duty League is brought to you by GameFuel. Unlock a CDL team pack with any purchase on gamefuel.com/CDL while supplies last. Offer ends on August 31st. Tournament audio and team listen-ins are powered by Astro Gaming, the official headset and mix amp of the Call of Duty League.
Alrighty, folks, it is your Game Fuel Victory Spotlight. I'm Lando, and joining me is, I'm sure, a very happy MajorManiak, of course, from the Minnesota Røkkr. We see the reactions there. A big W here versus the Paris Legion. I gotta ask you, my friend, right? A grueling series, but I gotta say, myself and Stub, we had the cast for this one. We were kind of talking about how the first 3 games, you know, somewhat kind of one-sided either which way. But this hard point, it came down to the wire. Walk me through your guys' process as you were able to lock it away.
I mean, yesterday after that loss versus OG, we kind of went back and just kind of looked over the situations that we could have capitalized on. Even in this map against Paris, we kind of started off slow, me especially, and I think we just did a good job of just working breaks and just playing as a team. And that's something that I've really been just trying to stress, is like just moving around the map together. It doesn't matter if you think you're not making the right play, as long as you're just doing it together. It's just better than just being, you know, taking solo chows, things like that. So I think we just played collectively well.
Absolutely, man. Well, actually, you guys look great, at least so far throughout the respawns in this particular series. I want to ask you, though, in terms of the search and destroys, right? Because I know that this has kind of been a struggle for this Minnesota team in general. As of late, you guys did lose the search and destroy here, did drop it yesterday versus OpTic as well. You guys got some time before your next series. Things you want to work on in that mode from a great search and destroy mind like yourself. What do you want to see different with the team in search and destroy?
Yeah, I mean, I just came back into this team about, a week and a half ago. We haven't played too much S&D together, so I've been trying to just fill the gaps and like just see what kind of strats and mid-round adjustments we can make based off what they've already been doing. And I think I'm very confident in our search and destroy ability. Obviously, that raid was just a super weird map. I wouldn't even say it was uncomfortable. I just think we weren't really taking advantage of like the pressure and map control when we could with our subs. So yeah, I mean, when it comes to S&D, it's not a mode that I'm like, okay, like we need to be focusing it so hard. I think hardpoint is really where we need to have our ball game, and I think S&D in a tournament setting will really come together. And we have a strong map pool in that, so I think it's just keep practicing S&D in scrims, figuring out things we can abuse, and it's really just taking tendencies of the teams that we're playing in that certain match and just capitalizing on what we can do.
Now, Major, I want to ask you one last question before we wrap things up. Again, a great W for you guys here today. Now, there's been a lot of talk, of course, on the timeline, a lot of things about yourself coming in for accuracy. I want to give you the chance to kind of talk about, kind of getting this chance again with Minnesota. I know that it's kind of been a different type of year for Røkkr. Everybody's had to make roster changes, but now you're back in the lineup. What do you want to do for this team? What do you want to provide for this Røkkr team to kind of turn around what has been a difficult last few months?
I just want to win, like period, point blank period. I want to go to the major. I want to win. I want to perform really well at champs, get some revenge there. And when it comes to like any team and just what I bring to this team, I think I just bring like a consistency aspect. I think I bring a lot when it comes to S&D. And then I know I can step it up in slaying, and just me personally, I'm just trying to find that balance in between aggressive and slowing down when I have to, and that's really what I'm trying to work on. So individually.
Absolutely, man. Well, hey, you guys obviously get the job done here versus Paris. A big victory for you guys. I know you had a little bit of a late series yesterday versus OpTic, but you come back back-to-back series and you get the job done here. Congrats to you and the team on the victory, and best of luck throughout the rest of Stage 4.
Thank you, Landon. I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, MajorManiak is indeed focused on the major. This team looking to try and turn some things around, and obviously they got the opportunity to do that. They get the job here done versus Paris, but again, it is still early in the stage, and it's also still early in the day. Still Chicago home series. We got a lot of matches to come. Up next, though, it is going to be the LA Thieves taking on the Seattle Surge. Both teams off of a roster change. Who can come away with the dub? We'll have to find out when we join you after this break.
Hello and welcome to our Teemo 5G weekly drop game. Excited. We've got a lot of changes going on across the league and looking forward to seeing how they play out. It'll be myself, Maven, and Merc taking you through the action for our next two matches. And Joe, we've got a huge match coming up, and all I've seen you doing is playing on your phone. What are you doing, bud?
Oh, like you said, it's the weekly drop game, and this week T-Mobile's giving you a chance at an ultimate gaming loadout, including a custom gaming chair with your gamer tag, brand new gaming monitor and keyboard. And texting, I mean, it's just so easy. You just gotta text TMO loadout to 313131. Be entered. So pretty simple. Just getting that in. Like you said, I'm just
fantastic
trying to win.
stuff. No, good stuff. Good stuff. I actually today, speaking of getting stuff in, we got texted a reminder to do our predictions, and it literally locked as I was in the middle of it. So I got like 1.5 games in.
I always forget on the weekends, honestly.
Yeah, no, I do too. I usually do with my stream like you do now. But let's get into it. We're ready to get rocking. A change coming in for Thieves. I think we're all excited to see if they can get back to some of that success they saw with TJ in the roster. Let's go ahead and look at the squad. LA Thieves.
Man, that sure looks good, man.